call. This is your last one and a courtesy call. Hey, it comes with danger up in this club. When we get started and we ain't.
All right, guys, today we're talking about green. We did red last time. We're going to be doing green today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video like you enjoyed the red video. And we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So we have the green starter deck. We're going to go over it really quickly. We're going to go over this promo here, which is the only green promo, I believe, that we have at the moment, which is just Dawn 2 against double attack. So it's a 3 cost unit, so that's super cheap. You can play it as early as turn 2. Dawn 2, it can attack and deal 2 damage. So obviously you can invest a lot into this card, or you can combo it with stuff like Law and then just like with 1 unit deal 4 damage, which is pretty nice. But Kid is a very popular ruler, especially right now in Japan, where you can Dawn 3, discard a card in your hand, and then make this card active. So even if you have nothing on board, you can always rely on Kid to be doing damage to you, doing damage for you. So which is why Law is such a powerful. Green is such a powerful color right now, because even through all the control aspect, you always have a unit that can deal some significant damage. And I do want to apologize for the lighting once again. I actually don't have my proper lights set up yet at this place that I'm at right now. So, and it's getting dark. So you just get the headlight. Hope that's okay. I'll fix the lighting for next time, I promise. All right, so we got vanillas. We have a rouge, which is just, it becomes big if you have a big board, which is actually pretty decent when it comes to some other type of cards, like the what's it called? The Law, the red and green Law leader, because obviously you need to have 5 characters on board for it to be able to activate its effects. So it's okay. I mean, once again, Dawn 1, you become like a 6,000 guy Gauss for two costs. It's a little on the weak side, so it's easier to KO, but it is what it is. I like this card a lot. It's pretty decent. Obviously, we have our blocker. We have our searcher, which is crazy. Being able to search for any supernova from the top 5 cards of your deck is pretty decent. Killer is another excellent card. The green star deck has a lot of excellent cards on it. KO up to one of your arrested characters with a cost of 3 or less. This pairs really well with a lot of the cards we're going to be looking at shortly. So Killer is another excellent card while also having a counter. Apu is just a 2,000 counter guy. It doesn't really do anything that's relevant. We have Law, which is another excellent card with a counter. On play, you can set one of your rested characters with Supernova or Heart Pirates with a cost for 5 or less to active, which is great. And then Basil Hawkins is another good character that can attack multiple times, thanks to it being able to attack a character and then restand. But it doesn't have a counter, but it is 5 cost, 6,000 power, which you can play, and then hopefully your opponent doesn't deal with immediately, and then you just go ham on their board, which is really nice. More vanillas with counters, and then we have Kid here, which is a blocker. 7 cost, so pretty expensive, but really strong because you are a 7 cost blocker that can restand. So you still have the benefit of being a big unit, but also being a blocker. And once again, you can blocker, then you can counter while blocking to make it super strong, and then you don't lose the unit. So Kid, very good card, just definitely not a 4 of kind of good card, unless you are going crazy with the blocking. And then we have another excellent card in X-Drake, being able to give your whole board plus 1,000 power, including your leader, which pairs really well with Kid here, because obviously now your leader is stronger while this card's rested. And then we have some terrible, horrendous options, except for Straw Sword, which you can just rest a character and then you can beat over it. Which is probably less useful whenever we talk about the other cards that we talk about, but still very good, especially in starter deck format. Scalpel can give you 2,000 power for 1 cost and then restand a Dawn. As of right now, the restand thing, I don't see it being useful at all. And 2,000 is so bad. For 1 cost, you're doing the same thing that you could do with a unit. It's not super great. And this one is giving something 4,000 power for 2 costs and then a restand to Dawn. 4,000 is better. 4,000 for just 2 and no other good effect besides restanding one of your Dawn doesn't feel super great. Only pairs well whenever you have multiple events, but nothing in green makes me think we're going to be playing multiple events for sure. So yeah, there's that. We already talked about this. So we're going to go ahead and go straight into the set itself. And unlike red, green gives us a new style of play, which is this Odin leader. Odin's super good, actually. Once per turn, you can trash 1 Wano country type card from your hand to set up 2 of your Dawn active, Dawn to active, I apologize, which is decent. I don't know how amazing that is, but it's definitely a pretty decent unit, being able to give you 2 extra energy every turn by trashing something in your hand. Of course, you have the trash, which is a heavy cost, and some of these, but a lot of these Wano Country cards are excellent. Like immediately we have Izo over here, which is on play, rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost for 4 or less. For a little bit more, I mean, Straw Sword's more versatile because it can rest anything on board, but like just being able to rest blockers, kill blockers, maybe like rest stuff. Think of the mirror. You can rest something like Hawkins and then immediately attack into it with your other guys. So this is excellent. Definitely like a 4 and it's a 2k counter. Like, look at this card's crazy. This card is nuts. Every green deck should be playing 4 of this card for sure. Doji, not so much. It's still a decent Wano Country card, but not amazing. If your opponent has 2 or more rested characters, this card gains 2,000 power. It's too much reliance on your opponent, especially since green's whole strategy is about picking away at their board while also swinging multiple times. Very mid-range. Something like Doji is not amazing. We have Dogstorm here, which is a good card if you really want to play this Red Scabbard deck, Wano Country Red Scabbard deck, because when attacking you can set one of your Dawn to active, so obviously when you attack, you have 1 extra energy you can use for the turn, which is pretty decent. And then we have Okiku, another card that is pretty good. When attacking, rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost 5 or less, so more resting in the deck. This one doesn't have a counter, but it is a pretty decent attacker for an extra rest paired with Izo, which is just pretty good. You know, we got a vanilla here. We have Kawamatsu, which is a vanilla with a trigger. We have Conjuro. When attacking, KO one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 2 or less. It's okay. 2 or less is a little bit weaker. I'd rather just attack over units with 2 or less. And then on KO, I mean, obviously it's decent if you want to be killing things like Bonnie or Namis or anything like that, but they have to be rested, which is good because you can rest them yourselves, but which means you have to play this guy and then dawn onto it and then attack. So, and usually you're going to be dawning at least twice. So yeah, there's that. And then on KO, your opponent chooses 1 card from your hand, trash that card. Terrible. Absolutely horrendous. You don't want to lose cards in your hand in this game. We have Killer, another Killer. This one's a blocker, 2-cost blocker with Dawn 1 on block. If you control 3 or more characters, draw 1 card. Excellent. This is really strong, actually. It does cost an extra Dawn, but being able to draw extra cards is super important in this game. Because once again, your hand is so small, you don't get a lot of draw in this game. So just, it's a blocker that can draw. So and it's a counter as well, instant 4 of. Like, we need more blockers, we need more stuff like that. Kinemon. If your leader is Odin, you can play 1 cost 3 or lower 9 Red Scabbard type card from your hand on play. So Kinemon can immediately play Izo. Something to think about. And then Dawn 1, when attacking once per turn, set one of your cost 3 or lower 9 Red Scabbard type cards as active. Excuse me. Which is once again Izo. Obviously Izo's a little bit weaker. So if we had something a little bit stronger, like maybe Dogstorm, it could be really good because then you can gain, because this is not once per turn. So now you can use this Kinemon to play this, or when attacking, this can restand, and then you get 2 extra energy for the turn. On top of the fact that you have Odin, who's giving you another 2 extra energy for the turn. So you can really extend in this deck. Or you can use these extra Dawn that you're standing to attach to your Odin and then swing for big damage with Odin. So yeah, some combo potential there. I do like the Kinemon card, specifically for the Odin deck, obviously, because you need to have your leader Odin to make all this stuff work. So yeah, and it's 6 cost 6,000, not the best stats in the world, but definitely not terrible. We have Momonosuke for 1 cost, 1 card, 1,000 counter as well. For 1 cost, you can rest this character, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Wano Country type card, and add it to your hand. So just like Bonnie for Supernovas, but this one's 0 power, which is kind of funny. And then you got Komurasaki for 3 costs on play. If your leader is Odin, set one of your Wano Country type character cards with a cost of 3 or less active. So this is just a restanding card if you're playing the Odin deck. Once again, at least from what we're seeing right now, oh, I forgot, Okiku's also 3 costs, which is actually relevant because it's 5,000 power. And when attacking is decent, but it's only once per turn, but it is another powerful card. So right now you really only have 12 targets with only 12 targets, only 8 of them being worth restanding most of the time. Only for the power for this one, but for this one to get extra Dawn. So, and this one will cost you 4 to restand because you have to play it and then you have to Dawn 3. So it's pretty expensive, but obviously can really push for KO turns because once again, you are restanding Dawn with this, restanding Dawn with this. So not terrible. Probably like a nice 1 or 2 of at most if you're playing the Odin deck. and it's still 1,000 counters, so it's not terrible. Vanilla, we have Penguin and Sachi. They pretty much do the same thing. We got Sachi here, which is a blocker, and on play, if you don't control a Penguin, you can play a Penguin from hand, and then you have the same thing here with Sachi. On play, if you don't control a Sachi, play one Sachi from hand. They're both blockers. They both do the same thing. One's just a little bit weaker than the other. They both have counters. Not a big fan of these play cards from hand with specific names. Until we have more searchers or more draw, I'm not a big fan of it. So there's that. John Bartz, Denjiro. This is a 5-cost Wano Country. When attacking, if your leader is Odin, set up to 2 of your Dawn cards active. So more restanding. This is also 7,000 power for 5, which is actually pretty good. And then when attacking is Dawn 1, so you're 8,000 power, swinging, resetting your Dawn to active. No counter, so you probably don't play 4 of this. But if you are playing Odin, it's definitely a pretty decent card. Law is another excellent card, 5-cost blocker. And then on play, you may return one of your characters to your hand, play a cost 3 or lower character from your hand. So we can do this thing where we, like, what's a good example? You play Law, and then on play, bounce something like a Nami, and then play that exact same Nami down, because there's no restrictions on what you can play. It can be any color. Excuse me. And this goes back to the Otama thing we talked about earlier. It's just a generally good green card that you can put back Momonosuke and then play it again and then activates effect again. Very versatile, very strong, and also a blocker. Yeah, it's just a really, really, really strong card. Definitely like a 3 or 4 of in a lot of these decks. It just doesn't have a counter, which is the downside. But being able to reuse a bunch of resources is really nice. More Wano Country cards. On play, rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost 3 or less. It's really similar to Izo, but it doesn't have that counter, so you don't play this. You play Izo more than you play this card. And Izo does the same thing. It's cost 4 or less, but it costs 1 extra, but being a 2,000 counter card is super strong. We cannot underestimate that. So you play this in case you're worried about blockers and you really want to go for KO turns. We have Beppo here. When attacking, play 1 Heart Pirate type card other than Beppo with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. There is no good Heart Pirate cards, really. I guess Beppo can play Penguin and Penguin can play Sachi. So like for 4 costs, you can play 3 units, 2 of them being a blocker. 1 draw a turn, very little search. I don't think we have anything that searches exactly Heart Pirates, do we? I know this one searches Supernova. Bonnie searches Supernova, and the other one searches Momonosuke. The other one searches Wano Country guys. So do we have a yeah, I don't think we have a searcher for Heart Pirates. That's a pretty cool thing if you can do it, but like you're losing 3 cards in your hand. But it does have a 2k counter. So maybe if we ever get like a law-centered deck that's specifically about Heart Pirates, maybe. But for now, we've got some other pretty decent 2k counters. Although the only decent 2k counter we've seen so far has been what is it, like Izo? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like the 2k counters in the starter deck are Apu and just Apu. So green is thirsty for some 2k counters, but I don't think it's that thirsty. I'd rather play actual events before I start playing Beppo in the moment. Now for the best card in the game, arguably. We got Kid here. 8 costs, so really late game, 8,000 power. Dawn 1. As long as this character is rested, your opponent cannot attack anything other than this character. Other than characters named Kid, I should say. Which pairs well with the blocker as well. So now your opponent can only attack by being able to be stronger than Kid. And you have blockers that you can play. And you have counters that you can play as well. This card is just crazy. It's just a crazy card. You need removal to get rid of this card, for sure. And then activate main. You may rest this character. You may play up to 1 character that costs 3 or less from your hand. Maybe. I mean, being able to play a character for free is decent, but like, you're probably swinging with this guy. Like 8,000 power swing is pretty nice. So yeah, Kid, insane. This is like the only 4 of that you could play and you won't feel bad because the card just stupid. It's just super nutty. And it's searchable with Bonnie too. It's just a crazy card. Raizo, when attacking once per turn, if you have 2 or more rested characters, draw 1 card. Not terrible. Not terrible. Not great though. And then we have X-Drake, on play, KO up to 1 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost 4 or less. Once again, not bad. You can it does require some work though, because you have to rest that character. I mean, obviously, if your opponent not hit you with something, you can just play it and KO it, really similar to Killer. Killer has a trigger though, and is a little bit weaker, but it does cost only 3, and this costs 5, which is pretty hefty. So I'm a little 50-50 on this card, but it's not bad. It's not awful by any means. You can be my Samurai, the first Dawn card. Rest 2 of your characters to draw 2 cards. Definitely not awful, because there are just some cards you're not attacking with. Examples are some of these weaker guys that you're playing, like Izo. You don't have to attack with Izo. Sometimes you just play it, do its effect, and then you rest it to draw 2 cards. And it's a little bit more proactive because you can just play these guys from your hand and then activate this to rest them immediately, and you don't really care that much. So, but draw 2, I mean, not terrible, not the greatest though. We'll have to see how effective that really is, because you have to rest 2 of your characters. You got Demon Face. What is this? KO 2 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 5 or less. Probably 6 cost is pretty hefty, and it's only 5 or less, so probably not going to see play. You can just attack over guys. God, it is getting darker and darker. This is definitely my last video. Paradise Waterfall. Counter 1 cost. Something gains 2,000 power during this battle, then set 1 of your characters as active. This is actually not super bad, because if you play this alongside your kid that has the blocker kid, you can block with it, give it Paradise Waterfall to give it 2,000 power, so it's probably not going to die in that battle, and then immediately restand it. And then its trigger is KO 1 of your opponent's rested characters with the cost for 4 or less. Not a terrible trigger either. It means it's 1 less character you have to deal with. So yeah, I'm actually, even though it's only 2,000 counter, and that's terrible, in a color where there's barely any 2,000 cost counters, it's definitely not bad. Combined with blockers, I just say, especially since we have other blockers like Law here, which is just 5,000 costs, or like stuff like Kid, where you can block with a unit, hopefully you don't die. They're forced to attack into Kid again, and then you restand that blocker and you give Kid extra power. So definitely not terrible by any means. Punk Gibson is your leader, up to 1 of your character gains 4,000 power for the battle, then rest 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost for 4 or less. Being able to rest something is just nice, so definitely decent as far as counters go. And then Punk Gibson's trigger is just rest 1 of your opponent's characters. Sorry for the cut there. Good game. Anyways, Punk Gibson, 4,000 power, resting something pretty decent. We don't have to go more into that. Last card is Bebin. You may trash 1 Wano Country type card from your hand, set 1 of your Wano Country type characters with a cost of 3 or less to active. I mean, we have units that can do that already. So that's pretty much it as far as green goes. Generally, pretty impressed. Lots of restanding, lots of resting. We know what green does. 2 different types of leaders. I guess 3 different types, because you also have Luffy as well. But yeah, the game plan of green is simple. You have 1 incredibly broken card, a few other really strong cards. Then you have some combo potential with Law being able to put these 3 cost cards that rest stuff back into your hand non-stop, and then play red cards with Rush. It's kind of crazy, right? You can play a card that has rest, that can rest something, and then you can immediately play Zoro that has Rush, or you can play Sanji from the starter deck that has Rush, and then immediately start swinging into guys. It's kind of nasty. And this one, you can just restand your Rush units over and over again. Like being able to restand Zoro is really nice. Being able to restand these guys that are not once per turn. It has to be a Supernova or Straw Hat Crew. So actually, you can't restand stuff like Dogstorm. But being able to restand, what's a good example? 5 or less. Nothing really comes to mind, really. Nothing in green, at least. Mostly for red. But yeah, the green and red synergy is really nice, because all green, like red is just rush, and then green is rest. So obviously, your opponent plays a character, you rest them, you rush into them, you move on to the next turn. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Sorry for the camera being absolutely atrocious. I'll try to fix that for the next time. I'll just record this during the daytime tomorrow, and I will see you guys next time.